Good evening.
Good evening.
If you do have a mobile, if you'd like to put it on silent, please, thank you. Right, absolutely massive welcome back to Mark Devlin with the Musical Truth 2 book tour and Music as Mind Control. DJ, author and researcher Mark delves yet deeper into popular music with his second book covering the swinging 60s, acid house music and more, providing evidence that far from developing organically and evolving naturally via talented individuals, popular music was birthed by the establishment. You control the artists. So why so much effort? Over to Mark. Please welcome Mark Devlin.
Well, thanks a lot, Rob. It's my fourth time at New Horizons by my reckoning, so it's good to be back. Thanks to everyone for turning out this evening. I'm touring my new book at the moment, as Rob mentioned, Musical Truth Volume 2. Some of you may have caught the talk that I did around Volume 1. What I'm giving you this evening is a few selected highlights from this book. If I tried to present everything that's in it, we'd be here till about November. But if you give me your undivided attention this evening, I won't keep you later than about 3 or 4 in the morning. No, I'm joking. My challenge is to get this done by about 10:15, so we should probably launch straight into it. This talk I have titled Music as Mind Control, or an alternative title could be It's Not As If We Weren't Told. So I've got 4 sections to this talk. There's 2 in part 1, then we're going to take a break, and then the remaining 2 are in part 2. It might seem as if I'm darting around all over the place with this information because it's quite disparate and eclectic in nature, but there are some consistent factors that link all of it. And the first one is that it's all about deception and duplicity at every step of the way. So the controllers of these industries like to mug us off, basically, and lie to us the whole time about who the people are that they place in front of us and what their real agendas are. But all the time, we have the opportunity to understand what's going on and what's being done to us. This is where aspects such as predictive programming and revelation of the method come in. So all this will make sense as we progress. For this book, I thought it'd be really interesting to see whether these same signs and symbols and sigils were present during the 1980s. And the reason I selected that decade is, first of all, because at the very start of it, we had the advent of MTV. And this provided a new opportunity for millions of people to be viewing music videos for the first time. And it led to many of these videos being produced on massive scales with very large budgets and very lavish productions, specifically for this new MTV audience. It's also the decade where I grew up listening to pop music, and I've got very fond memories of it. So I thought, now that I know what to look for, I wonder if this same imagery and symbolism was there all along. Well, would you believe it? It was, which is kind of lucky because it's provided a whole chapter for the book. So one of the places I wanted to start was with the group Adam and the Ants. It becomes very interesting to study some aspects of this group. First of all, we had the song Prince Charming, 1981, which was filmed in a Masonic temple. We got the black and white checkerboard flooring there, which is conveying these ideas of the duality that's inherent in nature, as above, so below, ideas of light contrasted with dark, night and day, good and evil, these kinds of expressions. We're going to see much more of this floor design as we go on, trust me. So in this video, you've got a cameo by Diana Dors, this very well-known British actress of the 1950s and 60s, who appeared as the fairy godmother. And so she waves her magic wand, and Adam morphs from being this kind of servant in rags to being this dandy Prince Charming, dressed in all these new romantic garbs, you know. And the whole scene was very reminiscent of one of these elite type balls that we hear about, and which we saw conveyed in the movie Eyes Wide Shut. There'll be plenty more of that as we go on as well. Towards the end of the video, you have Adam morphing in very quick succession into 4 famous people. So he's Alice Cooper, he becomes Marlon Brando from the Godfather movie, and he becomes a couple of other characters as well. So the public is left thinking, oh, it's just Adam Ant dressing up and having fun. like these new romantics are doing now. But I wonder if there could have been more going on, and if what we were witnessing was a reference to the dissociative personalities of Adam Ant, which were a result of mind control programming which was present in him. Adam Ant has gone on record as saying that he suffers from bipolar disorder, and he's been quite frank and open about it in interviews. He's been sectioned under the Mental Health Act a few times. There was an incident in London in 2002 where he went into a pub and started waving a gun around, and he threw part of a car engine through a pub window, and he had to be forcibly taken away and detained. And there was another incident where he did something similar in America. But what if bipolar disorder is a cover and is code for what's really going on, which is the breakdown of mind control programming of some of these individuals? Just the other day, we had a story in the mainstream media of Mariah Carey saying that she suffered from bipolar disorder for many years, going back to 2001. Mariah Carey is someone else that has exhibited some very unpredictable and erratic and strange behaviours. And it's all been put down to, oh, she's bipolar, that's why she behaves this way. But I think this is used in certain circumstances as a cover for what's really going on. Where you find mind control programming, you so often find connections to the world of the military and military intelligence, and where you find that, you find connections to the world of the occult and occult ritualistic activity, and where you find that, unfortunately, you very often find pedophilia skirting around the surface. We established earlier that it becomes very interesting to look at who the father was with so many of these celebrities. So this is Adam Ant's father, right? Alfred Leslie Goddard. Adam Ant's real name was Stuart Goddard. So this guy came from a military background. He served in the army. But in 1987, he was jailed for a period of time for his role in a paedophile ring which had been involved in procuring children for abuse by the rich and famous and the so-called great and good. This particular paedophile group was connected to Dolphin Square and that whole parliamentary paedophile thing that we've heard about in recent years. It had connections to this notorious child abuser Sidney Cook, and there's connections going in turn into Jimmy Savile. So Adam Ant's father was a convicted paedophile, and you've got all these other connections going on as well. And as I said, mind control is not always too far from the surface when you start getting into these realms. Another artist it becomes interesting to look at is Kim Wilde, who got going round about the same time in the early 80s. Her father was originally plain old Reg Smith. Her name was Kim Smith, but he reinvented himself in the late 1950s as Marty Wilde. And he came out as a pop star in his own right, fashioned very much in the form of a kind of British Elvis. His father, Reg Smith, Marty Wilde's father, it turns out, was a career military man. Here we go again, connections going back into the world of the military. He became affiliated with this big-time producer called Mickey Most, who had a record label called RAK. Mickey Most's real name was Michael Hayes, and he had a son called Kelvin Hayes, who was in the 1980s group Johnny Hates Jazz. And there was a period where Kim Wilde, Marty's daughter, and Mickey Most's son, Kelvin, were involved in a romantic relationship, and it looked like they might get married for a while until the relationship fizzled out. So it would appear to be another of these arranged industry relationships. But anyway, Kim Wilde put out an early song in 1981 called Checkered Love. In the video, she just happens to be performing on another of these black and white checkerboard floors. I think there was a special promotional offer on at B&Q that year, and all the producers of these videos rushed out and got themselves a roll of this stuff, you know, because we do see it everywhere. Another scene from that same video depicts one of these kind of elite type masked balls, and Kim Wilde is still performing. So last year, at the age of 56, she put out a cover of the Steppenwolf Easy Rider song Born to Be Wild, and in the video, would you believe it, there's another outing for this black and white familiar style of flooring. Something else you get in that video is this leopard roaming around, and something that I learnt about is Another expression of MK Ultra style mind control programming, which goes alongside Monarch programming, and it's known as beta sex kitten programming, and it's symbolized by big cats. So when you see leopards or tigers or lions, any other members of the big cat family, it's often a symbolic rendering of the presence of this particular style of programming. It's all about taking girls and programming them to be sex slaves for the rich and famous, the great and good, so-called. The original archetype of this style of programming was Marilyn Monroe, and the whole idea of beta sex kitten programming originated with her. We hear that she was gifted to JFK and various others along those lines and was, very heavily mind controlled. So it's interesting when you see big cats like this cropping up, because they tend to be indicative of that style of programming being present. This is a still from the movie Eyes Wide Shut. And this is from Madonna's Like a Virgin video, where you've got a lion roaming the waterways of Venice as Madonna's gyrating around on gondolas and she's being romanced by this guy. At one point in the video, he kind of morphs into this creepy ass half human, half animal hybrid with an animal face, and he seems to assume the role of her mind control handler. So that all becomes a bit creepy and unsettling. That's an image from Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and it's probably best left to the imagination what's going on there, to be honest. I'm going to whiz through a few of these actually, because I've got to do a fast track version of it. We see many expressions of one of these eyes wide shut style elite type balls in a lot of these early 80s videos. This is Ultravox Vienna, and they appear to be at one of these type gatherings. Back to Adam and the Ants for this one. All these images are from a Rothschild ball which took place at one of their mansions in 1972. And with the kind of face masks and the kind of decor and garb that they're getting down with, we get an insight into what goes on at one of these events. As I say, this goes all the way back to 1972. And if this is the nature of how this lot like to get down and party, I think I'll stay at home with an early night and a nice mug of cocoa myself. Wouldn't really want to be present at one of these. Not my idea of a great night out. Let me zip through to something else. Just before I do, this is a still from a video by Laura Branigan, and the song is called Self-Control. This particular video was directed by the Hollywood director William Friedkin, who worked on The Exorcist and also The French Connection and a bunch of other famous films. He was brought out to direct this particular pop promo, and it appears to depict the relationship between a heavily mind-controlled Laura Branigan and her mind-control handler. It's one of many such depictions that we get buried away in what is ostensibly a nice, innocent, fun 1980s pop video, but in actual fact is depicting something very much more disturbing. Which brings us on to this one. This is a video for Duel by the German group Propaganda, and it came out in 1985. This group was signed to ZTT, the same record label as Frankie Goes to Hollywood, owned by the super producer Trevor Horn and a rock music journalist called Paul Morley. Paul Morley married the lead singer of Propaganda, Claudia Brücken, who we see here. And the shocking thing about this video is not that they're performing on a black and white checkerboard floor. There's nothing bloody surprising about that at all. But we get it later on in the video, round about midway, where for no apparent reason you get this young girl in a nightdress, and she's getting accosted and molested by this sea of hands. They're all reaching out and touching her, and she's clearly, traumatized by the situation. What you then get is a picture of this young girl in her nightdress in the frame of a mirror. That then changes very quickly to the lead singer of Propaganda in the same mirror, and then it turns into an old lady who's holding a doll, and she uses the doll to smash the mirror. What we're seeing here is a depiction of lifelong satanic ritual abuse going from childhood all the way through to old age. And when you see shattered mirrors, like I said, it's indicating the presence of a shattered, fractured personality as a result of traumatic programming. And you have the doll there for good measure as well, that emblem of childhood innocence. So in the middle of this pop video, in 1985, viewers were absorbing into their subconscious all these suggestive images pertaining to satanic ritual abuse and mind control programming. Nobody would have known what this meant back in 1985, but it was being subliminally absorbed anyway. It's only now that we've got the advent of the internet and the ability to do this research and share the information that we can come to a full understanding of what's been right there in plain sight and going into our psyches all the way along, which is quite incredible to me. Zip through a few more black and white imagery. And it's not just the checkerboard floors, it's wherever you see black contrasted with white. It's been identified as a mind control trigger. So you get things like this, a Tony Basil video where she appears dissociated. You've got the black and white thing going on, the duality, Madness from one of their early videos, Bed and Breakfast Man. This video from Madness, interesting name, Madness, the Nutty Boys. Is there more to that than we thought? In this video, they're in white suits against a black background. This is Tomorrow's Just Another Day, 1983. Then you see the group picking up umbrellas, and they're spinning these umbrellas around. Spinning umbrellas has been identified as another trigger for mind control programming by some survivors that have come out of, that world. And we see it popping up in all these music videos. Duran Duran, very interesting stuff in their videos, most of which were directed by this Australian guy, Russell Mulcahy. Union of the Snake has the group going down into this deep underground military base where you've got children being kept captive in cages, in nightgowns. Then they get led out of these cages in what appears to be a trance-like state. Pretty disturbing stuff for a pop promo when you really think about it. We get a whole load where you get puppets and marionettes, and you get artists interacting with kind of puppet or doll versions of themselves. A few examples here. You get hints at multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity, when you get different versions of the same artist on screen at the same time. It's a bit difficult to see, but there's 3 versions of Kate Bush from the video for The Man with the Child in His Eyes, from that particular video. And then there's other videos where there's different versions of Kate on screen at the same time. Becomes very interesting to look into some of the background of Kate Bush, actually. And another video where we get a similar kind of idea coming through is that for Gary Newman and his song Cars. So this is 1979, just before the advent of the 80s, and it's synth pop, keyboard-based music. Gary Newman was an artist who had hits like Cars and Our Friends Electric, and he very much rocked a robotic kind of image himself, fashioned very much on Kraftwerk, who were early purveyors of that robotic sound and look. So Gary Newman used that as his adopted name, and it was spelled N-U-M-A-N, but it kind of puts across the idea of new man, as in a man upgraded or augmented, to use the language of transhumanism, into something more than human. And the fact that he was dealing with this futuristic synth pop sound leads me to think that he was an early example of getting people ready for what was known to be coming, this digital electronic society, the Internet of Things, the smart grid society. Gary Newman seems to have been early mind control programming for the masses along those lines. And in his videos we see different versions of him hinting at that same multiple personality disorder, and we have things like pyramids going on as well. There's 3 versions of him on screen at the same time. Back to Fritz Lang's Metropolis, 1927, and there's some images from that futuristic cityscape that cropped up in the video for Queen's Radio Gaga, where they're interacting with some of that footage. Just going through some other stuff really quickly as well. Annie Lennox from the Eurythmics was very early on rocking these ideas of androgyny, this eidetic kind of blurring of the sexes, similar to what David Bowie had been doing in the 70s. Annie Lennox just reinforcing these whole ideas. Belinda Carlisle's Heaven is a Place on Earth has a load of creepy-ass kids in face masks holding globes. And at one point, they arranged the globes in the form of a pyramid. What could be the significance of all these globes when it comes to mind control, I wonder? A few others here. This is Nena, 99 Red Balloons. It's a modern video for a remix of that song. And we have Nena in black and white striped leggings. So there's the mind control triggers, sitting on top of a pyramid with some nice chemtrails painted in for good measure. So they didn't miss any tricks there. And these are all subliminals from the Bee Gees' You Win Again video from 1987. They come at you in a split second at the start of the video. There's no real reason for them to be there because they don't relate to the song in any way, but we get all these subliminals flashed straight into our subconscious mind. And a nice 666 on the dominoes there. Last one to leave you with in this section is one of the videos that was produced for Depeche Mode, their song Enjoy the Silence. This is 1990, so we're just outside of the 80s. This particular video was filmed at the top of one of the towers of the World Trade Center in New York. It was 11 years before the events of 9/11 in 2001. And at one point in the song, the singer Dave Gahan states the lyric, "Come crashing into my world." Interesting stuff indeed.